All right, let's dive into a really fascinating idea from Buddhist philosophy. It's called becoming. And don't worry, this isn't about some kind of mystical, magical transformation. It's actually way more practical and down to earth. It's all about how we, in every single moment, are actively creating the reality that we experience.
So, I want to start by asking you a question. Straight up, what world are you creating right at this very moment? Because according to this way of thinking, you're always building one. This whole explainer is about unpacking that process, understanding the forces, both inside us and out, that literally construct our existence.
So here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off by looking at the paradox of becoming itself. Then we're going to climb this kind of staircase of reality, exploring 3 different levels we can create. First, the sensual worlds, then the world of form, and finally, the really abstract formless realms. And we'll wrap it all up by seeing how this whole journey points us toward the path to liberation.
Okay, so let's start where most of us live pretty much all the time, right here on the ground floor, the central worlds. This is the reality that's defined by everything we see, hear, taste, smell, and touch. You know, that constant stream of pleasure and pain that we're navigating every single day of our lives.
And becoming is really the name we give to the engine that drives all of this. It's this dynamic process where our inner world, our intentions, meets the outer world. And this interaction shapes not just the moment you're in right now, but it sets the stage for everything that's going to come next.
Now, on this sensual level, there's a really crucial distinction to make. Our experience isn't really defined by the pleasures we have, but by our attachment to them, our craving for them. Think about someone who's always chasing the newest phone or the latest gadget. They're often more hooked on the feeling of wanting it than they are on actually enjoying it once they get it. That's the classic hedonic treadmill in action. You're just always running toward the next hit, never really feeling satisfied.
So how does this world actually get built, moment to moment? Well, the source material gives us this absolutely brilliant analogy. Think of it like this. Our actions, or our karma, are like a field. Our consciousness is the seed that we plant in that field. And our craving, that wanting we were just talking about, that's the moisture, the water that makes the seed actually sprout. It's a perfect picture of how these 3 things come together to grow our reality.
And of course, not all seeds are the same. On one hand, we can plant what's called skillful karma. This is stuff driven by generosity, by virtue. And it creates this amazing positive feedback loop. People start to trust you, your environment gets more harmonious, and you just feel a sense of well-being right here and now. But on the other hand, we can plant unskillful karma, which is driven by greed and delusion. And that just leads to this feverish, agitated state of mind, creating a whole lot of suffering for us and for everyone around us.
Now, the results of these actions can lead to wildly different experiences, everything from worlds of intense suffering to these heavenly realms of incredible pleasure. There's this great story about Nanda being tempted by 500 celestial nymphs, which just shows you how incredibly alluring those higher sensual worlds can be. But here's the real kicker, even they are temporary. The good karma that gets you there eventually runs out, and the whole cycle just starts all over again.
And this brings us to a really critical question. I mean, if even the absolute best-case scenario on this sensual level is still just a temporary fix, what's the alternative? Is there some other way to experience life that isn't just this constant chase for pleasure and running away from pain?
Well, the answer to that question takes us up to the next level, the world of form. This is where we shift our focus away from the external world of the senses and turn inward to the landscape of our own minds. This is where we can actually cultivate a much more stable and refined way of being.
And the main way people access this level is through a state of meditation called jhana. This is a state of really profound concentration, where all the usual mental chatter just quiets down. And what's revealed is this kind of stillness and clarity and peace that is so much more satisfying than any fleeting pleasure you could get from your senses.
But what if you're not a deep meditator? Now this part is just fascinating. The source material points to a totally parallel path for cultivating this more refined state, and it's something you can practice in the middle of your everyday life.
This alternate path is all about actively cultivating these 4 qualities, sometimes called the divine abodes. We're talking about goodwill, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. And these aren't just, nice ideas. They are actual mental states that we can train ourselves to live in. We can intentionally foster goodwill towards others, feel compassion for their struggles, genuinely celebrate their successes, and learn to maintain a balanced, steady mind. And here's the brilliant part, the immediate payoff. Cultivating these qualities isn't about getting some reward in the future, it's about right now.
When you're filled with goodwill and compassion, your interactions just get kinder. Your relationships improve, and you start to create a more positive, supportive world all around you in this very moment. You are actively building a better world.
Okay, so we've gone from the kind of coarse world of the senses to the much more refined inner world of the mind. But what if we could go even further? I mean, what happens when we let go of form altogether, including even the concept of our own body or mental pictures?
This takes us to the highest, and definitely the most abstract level of becoming, the formless realms. This is really the pinnacle of refinement, a dimension of experience that goes beyond even the most subtle ideas of shape and form.
Now, it's really easy to hear a word like formless and immediately think of, just nothing, annihilation. But that's a huge misunderstanding. The source material is really clear about this. This is an experience of pure, boundless consciousness. It's a reality that just isn't confined by the usual limits of our perception.
And yet, and this is a huge and yet, even in this unbelievably sublime state, that fundamental rule of impermanence still applies. There is still a very subtle identification happening, a subtle sense of I am the one who is experiencing this. And that tiny bit of clinging means that even the formless realms are not the final escape. They are not the ultimate goal.
So, if even the most amazing, sublime states of existence are not the final answer, then what is? Well, this brings us to our final section, the path to liberation. Because the real goal isn't to get to a better place within the system. It's to fundamentally change our relationship with the system itself.
You see, liberation isn't about reaching some special destination, whether that's a heaven or a formless state. The real goal, the true work, is to uproot the very cause of this endless journey in the first place: our attachment, our clinging, our craving.
And this just gets to the absolute heart of the whole matter. The problem isn't the things themselves. The pleasure is fine. The form is fine. The meditative state is fine. The problem is our attachment to them. It's our mistaken belief that these temporary things can somehow give us lasting, permanent happiness. That is the root source of suffering in this whole cycle.
So how in the world do we let go? Well, the good news is we already have the tools. The path is actually paved with the very same qualities we've been talking about this whole time. Generosity and virtue help weaken our greed. Mindfulness helps us see clearly how temporary everything is. Wisdom helps us understand this whole process, and compassion opens our hearts. These are the practical tools for real transformation.
And it's really important to see that this isn't just some solo mission you go on by yourself. Every single act of kindness, every moment you choose to be mindful, it all contributes to a shift in the collective consciousness. As we cultivate these amazing qualities in ourselves, we're actually helping to create a more harmonious, more compassionate world for everybody. Our inner work has this incredible outer ripple effect. Which brings us right back to where we started, but hopefully with a whole new layer of understanding. This entire journey of becoming, this world we live in, is fueled by the seeds that we plant with our actions and our intentions. So the final question isn't about what amazing realm you want to get to someday. It's something much more immediate and much more powerful. What seeds are you going to plant today?